And good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome to the program. Hope you all are doing well. Good afternoon and welcome back. Welcome back to the Children of the Sun program, a show dedicated to positive energy from the fifth dimensional perspective. I'm your host, Ray Bratcher, broadcasting from St. Croix on WSTX AM 970, the soul of the Caribbean, where it is 12:30 Atlantic Standard Time on Friday, May 29th, 2026. So welcome to the show and welcome to the weekend. Good afternoon, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the sacred space between us, horizontal enlightenment and the sacred space between us. But before we get into that, we find ourselves just days after Memorial Day, and as a veteran myself, I don't want to let it pass without making a couple of observations. First off, I was glad, very relieved, that for the most part my Facebook feed didn't have many of those faux pas Happy Memorial Day posts, like it's some kind of celebratory, joyous occasion, and forgetting that it is instead a somber occasion that asks us to remember the fallen and reflect on memory and on sacrifice. But when I think of my fallen friends, I can't help but imagine them in heaven, looking down on our world and able to see, with the advantage of their higher perspective, and I mean higher in both ways, able to see with the advantage of their higher perspective the kind of world we could have. Maybe a world without wars, a world where we are not oppressed by a ruling class that doesn't give two FKs about us. Often we're told that Memorial Day is about honoring the fallen, but from a progressive, community-oriented perspective, it might also be a time to ask, what kind of world are we leaving for the living? We are still living in the interregnum, the point between the old world dying and the new world struggling to be born. We see the monsters of the old order, the ones who profit from war, from polarization, and from the erosion of our social fabric, trying to pull us down into a beta state mind of fear and isolation. But we're going to hold the lighthouse. As per our usual format for our special program, in this first hour we continue with the Sovereign Soul, and today is episode 4, Horizontal Enlightenment, and we're moving beyond the vertical spiritual climb to find the sacred right here in the space between us. And then in the second hour, we go back into the trenches with part 15 of Mike Brock's Crisis Papers. And we'll look at how the accelerating events of our week are testing the very foundations of our community. So let's, let's talk about the myth of the lone seeker, the lone spiritual seeker. For a long time, the dominant spiritual narrative was the lone seeker, the individual climbing the mountain to find enlightenment. But in this era of rapid climate change, political polarization, an oppressive and tyrannical ruling class, the erosion of local sovereignty, that vertical climb isn't enough. The old world, it wants us to think that we're isolated individuals, a bit player in someone else's drama. They want you to believe that your only power is in your individual consumption or your individual opinion. This is the deformed way of seeing reality. It is defective because it ignores the truth of our existence. We are relational beings. Horizontal enlightenment is the radical shift from I am to we are. It is the realization that the absolute isn't just up there or in here, it is between us. When I am fully present in my body and you are fully present in your body, the space between us becomes a resonant field. We aren't competing, we are co-creating. Let's bring this into the physical. If you can, close your eyes so you can feel your verticality. Those 3 points: head, heart, and pelvis. And take a few deep cleansing breaths. 2 or 3 will suffice. And now imagine the space in your room, the space between you and maybe the person next to you, or even the space between you and the community listening on the airwaves. Feel that space as a tangible, living substance. We are not only in the same space, we are the same space. Breathe into that. You aren't just an island. You are part of an archipelago of presence. This is how we resist the monsters, by refusing to be isolated. You know, progressive, community-oriented work is often exhausting because we try to fight the monsters while staying in the beta state mind, that contracted, conflict-oriented state that views the world as a zero-sum game. But when we activate the third state, that polyvagal state of social engagement, we become monster-proof. This is the state where we can hold space for the trauma of the world without being destroyed by it. This is how we honor the intent behind Memorial Day, by choosing to be present, to be connected, and to be effective in our service to the living. We are not just defending the past. We are cultivating the ground for a new world. Connecting your pelvis to your heart, to your head. Fully inhabiting your body. The monsters cannot inhabit your body when you are fully present in your body, taking up space. And now let's breathe into this horizontal field. With 5 minutes or so of conscious connected breathing. Breathing in and out through the nose in a circular rhythm. No pausing between the exhale and the exhale. Just breathe in through your nose, eyes closed. At the top of the inhale, you relax, let your breath fall out of your nose. When the exhale is complete, breathe in again. Breathing without pause, one continuous breath, just going around and around your circle. This activates the third state. Gets you out of the beta state mind of fear and separation and isolation. This is really our natural state. We are one of the few mammals that is propagandized basically to stay out of this state and stay in a fearful, contracted state. This state is necessary to the vertical enlightenment that seekers seek. But once you've achieved that, you begin to realize that coming back into the body and practicing horizontal enlightenment, sharing with your brothers and sisters so that the space between us all becomes a sacred space. That's the ultimate goal. That is what makes a better world, rather than this you could almost say capitalist spirituality of non-duality, where they say the world isn't real, so therefore it doesn't matter what you do, and you don't need to do anything, you don't need to help, you don't need to be concerned about what's going on. That doesn't work. And that's only halfway there. Jesus didn't spend all his time praying, ignoring everyone around him. He helped, he healed. We enter heaven 2 by 2 with each other. It's not a selfish endeavor. As you breathe, imagine the air is a bridge. With every inhale, you are pulling in the collective strength of our community. With every exhale, you are dissolving the barriers of the competing individual. Feel the breath as a bridge. We are one field. Dissolve the defect. You are the lighthouse. You're activating the human nervous system. You're coming back online as a relational, connected, and sovereign soul. And now when you're ready, you can gradually return to your body. Let your breathing return to normal. Gently open your eyes. Maybe stretch a bit, shake a bit. Yeah. You know, we're still in the shadow of Memorial Day. We see the flags, we hear the speeches, and we feel the weight of a country that is obsessed with remembering while simultaneously losing its mind in the present. From a community-oriented, progressive perspective, we have to ask, what is the nature of this memory? Is it a living memory that serves the dignity of the human person, or is it a tool used by the monsters of the interregnum to keep us tethered to a mythology of perpetual war and individual sacrifice for the benefit of a broken system? We're living in that chaotic gap Gramsci warned us about, the interregnum, the old ways of relating, the ways that depend on us being isolated, competing units, good only for what we can buy. Those old ways are dying. But they're fighting to stay alive by trying to convince you that you are alone. But we're going to hold the lighthouse. We're going to move beyond that vertical spiritual climb to find the sacred right here in our community. For centuries, the spiritual narrative has been the lone seeker. Think of the monk on the mountain, the hermit in the cave. The individual climbing toward a solitary pinnacle of enlightenment. It's a beautiful image, but there has always been another way. Not as popular, but a way more. Well, the Tibetans divide it between Shintong and Rajdor, something like that. I don't remember the exact word. The emptiness of self or emptiness of other. The typical path is emptiness of self. There is no you there. There's no universe, there's no you, there's nothing, there's no reason to take an interest in the lives of other people. That's not the path Jesus followed. That's the more popular path. The other path is emptiness of other, which means there is a real you doing the spiritual work. And you are one with all of your brothers and sisters. Everyone else is also you. You are also everyone else. All of us are God consciousness, one in God consciousness, one in the Absolute. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, because when you do unto others, and in the highest ultimate metaphysical sense, you are doing unto yourself. So that way of spiritual ascent is a relational spirituality. It is inherently a horizontal enlightenment. And right now in this era, an era of systemic collapse, the decay of our local infrastructure, tyrannical oppressors, brothers and sisters who have gone so mask off that they feel safe now sharing their hatred for other races because they are so wedded to the beta state competing mind that they can't see another way. Now more than ever, the horizontal path is demanded of us. The old world wants you to believe that you are a lone seeker because it's easy to manage a population of loners. If you're an isolated individual, you're a bit player, you're a consumer, you're a voter who can be easily scared into a corner. They want you to believe that your only power is in your individual consumption or the frantic noise of your individual opinion on social media. This is a deformed way of seeing reality. It is defective because it ignores the fundamental law of the universe, or at least of mammals or human beings. We are relational beings. You were born from a community. You are sustained by a community. And your consciousness is not a private internal state. It is a shared field. We want to make that radical shift from I am to we are. It's the realization that the absolute isn't just up there in the clouds or deep inside a walled-off ego. It is between us. The space between us is not empty. It is a resonant field. We aren't competing for crumbs of reality. We are co-creating the reality. You know, I hear so many people in the progressive community who are burned out. And why wouldn't they be? They're trying to fight a 21st century battle with a 20th century nervous system. We're trying to protest injustice, organize for equity, and care for our neighbors while our own systems, our own nervous systems, are caught in a fight or flight loop. Caught in the beta state mind, caught in contraction. It makes you feel like you're at war with everyone, even the people you're trying to help. But when we activate the third state, the polyvagal state of safety and connection, everything changes. This is the physiological anchor for progressive politics. If we want to build a world that is not defective, a society that is not defective, a society that actually takes care of its people, we have to start by embodying that care in our own nervous systems. Horizontal enlightenment is about bringing that safety into the room. It's about looking at your neighbor, your fellow protester, or even your political adversary and recognizing that we are sharing the same fundamental consciousness. That doesn't mean we don't hold people accountable or that we don't fight against the decay of our rights. It means we fight from a position of fullness, not from a position of emptiness. We aren't trying to change a past that didn't work for everyone. We are cultivating the ground for a new horizontal world that is built on the reality of our interconnection. You can't build the new world with the same mind that created the old world. You can't use the master's tools, as Audre Lorde said, to dismantle the master's house. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect to get different results. How many times have you heard all of this? And you probably agree with these sentiments, but maybe until now you didn't realize the fundamental, radical shift in perspective that these sentiments are calling for. You've got to step back from how you look at everything and look at it again. From the perspective of a Christian mystic, as I said, Jesus did not spend all of his time by himself praying. He was also out in the world healing and helping. And when he was healing, he was relating to people from that horizontal enlightenment perspective. He was not the grandiose, superior spiritual being who is going to heal you because you're so pathetic and I'm so much better than you. He related to people. He had empathy for people. He felt their pain. He saw them as his brothers and sisters. He saw them as one with him. Without that, he couldn't have healed a wart. In his day and age, he did not heal the culture. He did not heal the politics. That wasn't his mission. But maybe it's our mission now. A mission made possible by the quantum jump in human consciousness that he brought about. Human consciousness pre-Jesus and post-Jesus. You can see it in history. It significantly changed. You could say the barbarity and the cruelty and the selfishness remained, but it was no longer considered normal. It was questioned. Huge swaths of populations and communities the Cathars, the Quakers, the Mennonites, tried to take a stand for a better way. You know, what would this actually look like in practice? Um, you know, let's take a community radio station like this one, right? We aren't just broadcasting information. We are holding a space. We are creating a resonant field. When you listen to this and someone else in Kings Hill is listening and someone else is listening on the mainland, there is a connection that isn't dependent on subscription fee. This is the power of the common. The commons is not just property. It is the space we hold for each other. The monsters want to privatize the common. They want to privatize your attention, your health care, your land, and your citizenship. They want to turn you into a private unit. But when we engage in horizontal enlightenment, we are engaging in an act of radical reclamation. We are saying, my attention is not for sale, and my sense of self is not private. We are reclaiming the commons of our own awareness. And that is the most progressive, most revolutionary act you can perform in a dying system. So now we'll take a short break, pay some bills, give everyone a chance to maybe use the bathroom, or and when we come back, we're going to do another exercise, and maybe it'd be good if you had a kind of sprung that last one on you out of the blue. So we'll give you a chance to sort of like get prepared, get your space ready, and we'll do a full-on exercise after we come back from the break. You're listening to Children of the Sun on WSTX AM 970, the soul of the Caribbean, where it is 1:17 on Friday, May 29th. 2026. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Appreciate it. Appreciate you all. We'll we'll come back in just a few minutes. So we're coming back. You're listening to Children of the Sun special project program here on WSTX AM 970, the soul of the Caribbean. It's about 1:24 on Friday, May 29th, 2026. Here in beautiful St. Croix, (1:25) Atlantic Standard Time, because we are broadcasting from the turquoise waters of the Caribbean Sea. And we're talking here today about horizontal enlightenment, and the path of creating community space to help to be the midwives of the new world struggling to be born as the old world collapses. So we're going to turn now to a breathwork exercise called 20 Connected Breaths. You want to be sitting in a comfortable position, just comfortable. Doesn't have to be extreme. Back basically straight. Your eyes can be closed or open. Most people prefer closed. It's called 20 connected breaths. It's actually 5 connected breaths, but we repeat it 4 times for a total of 20. So the set of 5 breaths is 4 breaths fast, 1 breath deep. You're breathing in and out through your nose, not your mouth, your nose. So you breathe in and out through your nose, and just like we did at the beginning of the program, you do not pause between the inhale and the exhale. You breathe around your circle. Conscious, connected breathing. But we're not going to be breathing all the breaths the same like we did at the beginning. This is going to be 4 breaths. Your first 4 breaths are as fast as you can, as fast as you comfortably can. I used to be able to safely say as fast as you can, and then you start getting these extreme sports people who want to kill themselves. So as fast as you comfortably can. You're not trying to kill yourself, but it is faster than normal breathing. It's going to be faster than normal breathing. Your first 4 breaths connected, inhale to exhale, exhale to inhale, merging the inhale into the next exhale. The exhale merges into the next inhale, no pausing. 4 breaths as fast as you comfortably can. And then the 5th breath, you don't worry about speed. The 5th breath is as deep as you comfortably can. So that's 5 breaths. You repeat it 4 times for a total of 20. and it's connected. There's no pausing between the inhale and the exhale from the first breath to the 20th breath. Some people like to pause between sets of 5. Don't do that. There is no pausing between sets. The first breath is connected non-stop right through to the 20th breath. It's really that simple. If you want, you can stick out a finger every time you take a deep breath. When you have 4 fingers out, you've done 20 breaths, so you know you're finished. That helps you to not lose count. So I'm going to go first. I'm going to demonstrate. You'll just have to listen to the audio. I think it will make it clear what I'm talking about. So I'll demonstrate, and then we will do it together as community. So, beginning now. And that's all there is to it. Four fast breaths. The 5th breath is deep. Repeat 4 times for a total of 20. So I'll give everyone a moment or two to get situated, and breathe at your own pace. Don't try to match me or match anyone else. What's fast for you could be slow for someone else. What's shallow or deep for you could be deep or shallow for someone else. What is fast for you? What is deep for you? You're not trying to match someone else's breathing. Okay, and begin. And just relax and luxuriate in this space. Notice how you feel in your head and your heart. Notice how you are more present in your body now. Relating to your pelvis and your heart and your head from the inside out. fully inhabiting those spaces instead of intellectually conceptualizing about them. Notice the difference? That is activating the human nervous system into the third state of polyvagal relaxation and expansion, so that you are fully inhabiting your physical body, not regarding it as some vehicle over there that you have nothing to do with other than using it to drive around your head. Now let's expand that presence. Feel the center of your head. Feel the center of your heart, your pelvis. Now feel those 3 points extending outward toward the community. Imagine a beam of light from your heart connecting to the hearts of everyone in our listening circle. This is our resonant field. Place your attention on your heart. Even place a hand, your hand on your heart. Fully inhabit your heart. Fill your heart from the space within your heart. Be your heart. In the quantum field of consciousness, your consciousness is everywhere, so you're not limited to physical space. So place your awareness on my heart. Feel my heart. And feel how your heart and my heart and the shared space between us is all one thing. One consciousness. No difference. And fill the hearts of everyone in our listening circle. All of these hearts, all of this shared resonant space is one thing. One taste. Feel into that. Breathe into that. Love one another. In this shared consciousness, we lay the foundation for the new world. And it doesn't only make the new world possible, it makes the new world easy. Without this, we have no hope of building this new world, of midwifing this new world. But with this, it's going to inherently, intrinsically, it has to happen. We aren't trying to win at their game. We're starting our own game. And when you're ready, slowly and gently come back. Stay in the breath, stay in the presence. You are important. We spent the first hour clearing the space and finding our center. We served the eviction notice to the drama. Now we turn our eyes to the horizon. As we move into Mike Brock's crisis papers, number 15, maintain that horizontal enlightenment. We're going to look at the accelerated events of our shared reality. We remain informed but not deformed. We are not infected and defective. We are protected and collective. We are looking at a world that is failing from a heart that is certain. This is Mike Brock's notes from the circus. The crisis number 15. On the lie that the future is fixed. Noah Smith published an essay called "You Are No Longer the Smartest Type of Thing on Earth." His thesis is simple. AI is smarter than you. The trajectory is determined. The resources deployed are vast. The scaling laws hold. Your destiny is, in his words, mostly out of our hands. He uses a metaphor, a tiger. He tells you that for all of human history, you are the most intelligent thing on this planet. Now there is a tiger in the bed. It is bigger than you. It is stronger than you. It can kill you. Your task, going forward, is to figure out how to sleep next to it without being eaten. Every sentence in his essay is a description. Not one of them is a prescription. And yet the conclusion, your destiny is out of your hands, presents itself as realism. As the mature assessment of a serious observer, as the thing any intelligent person would conclude, given the data. I want to ask one question about the tiger. Who built it? But first, a prior objection. Smith's title tells you everything about his frame. You are no longer the smartest type of thing on earth. The premise is that human worth is indexed to intelligence. That being the smartest thing was what mattered, and losing that status is what makes the moment urgent. I find this premise disgusting. I do not consider human worth relative to intellect or smartness. I never have. That I am learned, that I possess knowledge and the ability to provide insight to others about the world, this feels like an obligation to share, not an advantage to be wielded as proprietary information. That is why I write. Not because my intelligence makes me valuable, because whatever I have learned belongs to the community that made my learning possible. Smith's frame, you were the smartest, now you are not, therefore tremble, is the view from nowhere applied to human dignity itself. It says your worth was always a function of your cognitive rank in the hierarchy of beings, that you mattered because you were at the top. And now that something else might be at the top, the question of whether you matter is suddenly open. The question was never open. Human dignity is not a benchmark. It is not subject to scaling laws. It does not depreciate when a machine passes a test. The parent who loves her child does not love the child for being the smartest type of thing on earth. She loves the child. Period. The obligation we owe each other to share what we know, to protect what we've built, to govern ourselves with care, does not diminish because a language model can write code. Smith cannot see this because his frame has no room for it. In his frame, worth is position, and position is precarious. That is not wisdom. That is the anxiety of a man who has mistaken rank for meaning. Smith describes a trajectory. The compute is scaling. The investment is flowing. $650 billion this year alone. The capabilities are advancing. The AI writes code now. The AI solves math problems now. The AI is, by any functional measure, surpassing human performance in domain after domain. He presents charts. He cites benchmarks. He links to viral essays about how fast everything is changing. Remember to breathe. Perceive this from the higher state of horizontal enlightenment. He links to vile essays about how fast everything is changing. All of this is true. None of it is a law of nature. The compute did not deploy itself. The $650 billion did not allocate itself. The venture capitalist who decided to pour the resources of a civilization into this particular technology rather than any other, they were not following gravity. They were making choices. The scaling laws describe what happens when those choices continue. They do not describe what happens if the choices change. This is the most important distinction in the philosophy of technology, and Smith erases it in his opening paragraph. He treats the trajectory as fixed, as determined, as something that is happening to humanity rather than something being done by specific human beings who could at any point do something else. The choices of the few become the conditions of the many, and the many are told, adopt. Hume's guillotine falls here with such force it should be audible across the internet. Every point in Smith's argument is an is. The AI can do this. The compute is growing. The benchmarks are rising. Not a single ought. And the conclusion that humanity's destiny is out of our hands is a normative capitulation disguised as empirical observation. Someone chose. The choice came from somewhere. The trajectory is not weather. It is policy made by people for reasons serving interest, and the claim that it cannot be altered is not a description of reality. It is a permission structure for the people making the choices to never be held accountable for them. I have written 13 pamphlets about the view from nowhere, the claim that one can make choices without standing anywhere, that one can wield power without having commitments, that the normative can be hidden inside the descriptive and therefore escape accountability. I traced it through media, Weiss at CBS installing free press contributors while claiming editorial neutrality. In crisis number 6, through corporate governments, Cook at Apple serving 2 authoritarianisms while wearing an MLK quote. In crisis number 5, through epistemology, the claim that objectivity transcends perspective in crisis number 13. Through economics, the claim that property precedes the political community in crisis number 14. Smith's essay is the final form. It is the view from nowhere applied to the future itself. He is not claiming to stand outside ideology. He is claiming to stand outside agency. He is saying it does not matter what you want. It doesn't matter what you choose. The technology decides. The scaling laws decide. The compute decides. You are a passenger in a vehicle that has no steering wheel, and the mature response is to accept this and plan accordingly. This is not realism. It is the most complete abdication of moral imagination available to a literate person. There is a reason I keep returning to David Hume in these pamphlets. It is not because Hume is fashionable. He is not. It is because Hume saw something in the 18th century that the 21st desperately needs to remember. You cannot derive ought from is. No accumulation of facts, however vast, however precise, however rigorously gathered, produces a normative conclusion. The data does not tell you what to do with the data. The scaling law does not tell you whether to scale. The benchmark does not tell you whether the thing being benchmarked should exist. I'm going to take a sip of water. Sorry about that. Between every description and every prescription, there is a gap, and the gap is permanent. It cannot be closed by more compute. It cannot be optimized away. It cannot be crossed by scaling laws or venture capital or benchmark improvements. The gap is the space where human agency lives, the irreducible domain in which conscious beings decide what matters, what to pursue, what to build, what to refuse. Smith's essay is an attempt to close this gap by pretending it does not exist. If the technology is sufficiently advanced, he suggests, the question of whether to build it becomes moot. It will be built. It is being built. The resources are committed. Your preferences are irrelevant. The is has become so large, so overwhelming, so well funded, that the ought disappears beneath it. But the ought does not disappear. It cannot disappear. This is what Hume proved. The normative domain is not a luxury that sophisticated people outgrow. It is the permanent condition of being a conscious being in a universe that does not come with instructions. The universe gives you facts. You must decide what they mean. And the AI is getting smarter does not mean let the AI decide. It means the question of who decides just became more urgent, not less. I want to talk about the parent. There is a mother or a father, millions of them, who watches their 12-year-old disappear into a screen and come back different, flattened, anxious, performing for an audience of strangers, unable to sit with boredom, unable to sustain attention, changed in ways that the parent can see but the metrics do not capture. This parent did not ask for any of this. They did not ask for an attention extraction engine optimized for engagement to be pointed at their child's developing brain. They did not ask for the social architecture of adolescence to be restructured around algorithmic feeds. They did not consent to the experiment. They were not informed of the risk. The choice was made for them by people in specific rooms for specific reasons serving specific financial interest. And the parent was told afterward that this is simply how progress works. That their discomfort is a failure of understanding, that the technology is neutral and the market decided and nobody chose this and it just happened. The parent knows this is a lie. Not because they have read Hume, because they live with the child, because they can see from where they stand that something was taken from their family without their consent. And every authority figure, the tech executive, the economists, the policy analysts, the Noah Smiths of the world, tells them that what they see is not real, that their trajectory is determined, that adaptation is the only freedom available. The parent's response, "I didn't ask for this," is the most precise epistemological claim available to a citizen. It is the claim that a normative choice was made that restructured their life and they were not included in the making of it. That is not misinformation. That is a correct description of a political event. Someone chose to build the attention engine. Someone chose to point it at children. Someone profited. And the people who bear the consequences were never consulted. The establishment's move, "the people are merely misinformed," is the institutional version of the view from nowhere. It says, we see the full picture. They see only parochial concerns. Their resistance is ignorance. Their discomfort is a knowledge deficit that more education, more digital literacy, more explanatory journalism will fix. The deficit is not on the demand side. Smith tells this parent, "The tiger is in the bed. Learn to live with it." I tell this parent, "You are right. The tiger was built by people. The people who built it are not gods. The trajectory is not fate. And you're right to participate in the decisions that restructure your child's life is not a quaint sentiment that technology has made obsolete. It is the foundation of self-governance. It is what the Republic was built to protect. And anyone who tells you otherwise, however sophisticated their charts, however impressive their benchmarks, is making a political argument, not a scientific one. I need to make an uncomfortable observation. It needs to be said plainly, because the comfortable version has been shielding people from the truth for too long. Fascists are good at technology. The V-2 rocket was the most advanced piece of technology on Earth in 1944. It was built by slave laborers at Mittelbau-Dora under the direction of Wernher von Braun. More people died building the V-2 than were killed by its deployment. The engineering was impeccable. The rocket flew beautifully. The method was not in question. The values were in question. And the method had nothing to say about the values, because it cannot. That is Hume's guillotine. That is the whole point. Henry Ford perfected the assembly line. He also published The International Jew, received the Grand Cross of the German Eagle from the Nazi government, and was praised by name in Mein Kampf. His technological genius was real. His fascism was real. These were not intention. The assembly line did not require democratic values. It required optimization. And optimization is indifferent to what is being optimized and for whom. In The Lord of the Rings, Tolkien, a man who survived the Somme, who watched the industrialization of slaughter, made Mordor the most technologically advanced civilization in Middle-earth. The forges of Isengard, the breeding programs, the siege engines, the mechanized production of armies. Saruman's betrayal is marked specifically by his turn toward industry, the destruction of living things in service of efficient production. Tolkien understood, because he had lived through it, that technical mastery and moral catastrophe are not opposites. They are natural companions when technique is severed from the normative ground that should direct it. The Shire has no technology to speak of. It has gardens. Elon Musk builds rockets. The rockets fly. He is dismantling the democratic institutions that would constrain how the rockets are used and who they serve. He is good at technology. That is not in dispute. The question was never whether he is good at technology. The question is whether being good at technology qualifies you to govern. The historical record answers this question with such clarity that it should not need to be stated. The people who built the best rockets in 1944 were pointing them at London while working their slave laborers to death. The method worked, the values were absent, and the method did not notice because the method cannot notice. That is not what the method does. Steve Jobs understood this. It was his deepest intuition, even if he never articulated it in philosophical terms. Quote, "The computer is a bicycle for the mind. The bicycle is a tool. The human is the rider. The rider decides where to go. The bicycle amplifies the rider's capacity to get there. The destination is not the bicycle's business. The destination belongs to the rider. The tool serves, the human directs, and the direction, the where, lives on the far side of Hume's guillotine. No amount of bicycle engineering tells you where to ride. The gears can be perfected, the frame can be lightened, none of that produces a destination. The destination comes from the rider, from the normative domain, from the place where values and meaning and purpose live. I wrote about Jobs in Crisis Number 5, about his insistence that Apple sit at the intersection of technology and the liberal arts. That was not marketing. That was an epistemological commitment, the recognition that the tool and the purpose come from different domains, and the purpose has primacy. What has replaced Jobs, not just at Apple, but across Silicon Valley, across the entire technological establishment, is the inversion of his metaphor. The current vision, stated openly at their conferences and in their pitch decks, and now in Noah Smith's essay, is that the human is the bottleneck. The human is slow. The human is biased. The human is irrational. The human is the part of the system that needs to be optimized away. The computer does not need a rider. The computer needs data. And the human is a source of data. And once the data is extracted, the human's role is finished. The human is the bicycle for the computer's mind. That inversion is not a technical development. It is a metaphysical revolution. It is the replacement of the Humean understanding that the normative domain is irreducible, that the human rider is necessary because only the rider can choose the destination, with the Cartesian fantasy in which the system becomes complete. The machine will optimize. The optimization will converge on the right answer. The is-ought gap will close. The view from nowhere will be achieved, not by a human, but by a machine that has transcended the human limitations that Hume identified as permanent. It is the oldest wrong in the history of philosophy dressed in new hardware. And Gödel proved, formally, mathematically, irrevocably, that no formal system sufficient to express arithmetic can prove its own consistency from within. The machine is a formal system. More compute does not escape the incompleteness. More parameters do not cross the gap. The is-ought boundary is structural, not computational, and no amount of scaling will cross it because it is not a limitation of processing power. It is a feature of the relationship between description and prescription. The machine cannot tell you where to point the rocket. That is the writer's job, and the writer is the citizen. There is something deeper here, something that the materialist frame on both sides cannot see. I wrote in Crisis number 14 that property is real and downstream of the Democratic Compact. That Jefferson deliberately removed it from the foundation and placed the pursuit of happiness there instead. I want to extend that now because Smith's essay and the entire techno-determinist project rest on the same error that Locke made, the belief that accumulation is the ground of meaning. I am not a materialist. My ethics are not based on the accumulation of stuff. I do not think it is a moral principle that the billionaire should not exist. It is a spiritual observation that I find more important. Why would anyone want that? Is having accumulated the most money what will comfort you on your deathbed? And to those who covet what the billionaires have, you are making the same mistake they are. That is why I am neither a socialist nor an anti-capitalist. I wrote about this at length in the two materialisms. There are two forms of materialism in American political life, and they are mirror images. Marxist historical materialism says, change the ownership of the means of production and consciousness follows. Neoliberal market materialism says, maximize economic freedom and flourishing follows. Both treat economic arrangements as primary and spiritual values as derivative. Both think the fundamental question is who owns the stuff. Both are wrong. The billionaire and the revolutionary who wants to redistribute his wealth are trapped in the same frame, the frame that says the material is what matters, that the question of who owns the stuff is the fundamental question. It is not. The fundamental question is what we owe each other, what is true, what is just, what is worth pursuing with the brief time we are given. I pity people who think opulence is the good life. Opulence is its own prison and its own punishment. Look at the men building these tigers. Look at the hollowness behind the accumulation. Look at the frantic drive to build more, scale more, own more, as though enough compute will fill the space where meaning should be. They are building Mordor and calling it progress. They are accumulating power and calling it purpose. And they are telling the rest of us that our destiny is to adapt to the world they are building for themselves. But the happiest people, the people who actually live well, are never the ones pursuing stuff. They are pursuing truth, justice, connection, craft, beauty, service. the things that live on the far side of Hume's guillotine, the things that no scaling law produces and no optimization converges on, the things that require the rider to choose a destination and ride there with purpose. The technological determinists have not merely made a political error or an epistemological error, they have made a spiritual error. They have mistaken power for meaning and trajectory for purpose, and they would impose that error on 7 billion people who never asked for it. The people are sovereign, including over the question of what constitutes a good life, a question that no machine, no scaling law, and no billionaire can answer for them. Smith tells you the tiger is in the bed. He tells you to be smart about it, to adapt, to accept that your destiny is out of your hands. He does not tell you who built the tiger. He does not tell you who funded the tiger. He does not tell you who profits from the tiger. He does not tell you that at every point in the tiger's construction, a human being made a choice, a normative choice, an ought. And that choice could have been different. He presents the tiger as if it arrived by natural process, as if tigers just appear when compute crosses a threshold. But someone built the tiger. Someone is building it right now. And the 7 billion people who have to sleep next to it were never asked whether they wanted a tiger in the bed. This is the final lie. Not that the technology is powerful, it is. Not that the capabilities are advancing, they are. But that the trajectory is fixed, that the future is determined, that human agency has been superseded by the scaling laws, that the only freedom remaining is the freedom to adapt to conditions you did not choose. That is not realism. It is feudalism That is not realism. It is feudalism with a tech stack. It is the lord of the manor telling the serf that the harvest belongs to him because the land is his, and the serf's only freedom is the freedom to work or leave. The serf did not choose the arrangement. The serf was not consulted, but the arrangement is presented as natural, as the way things are, and the serf's objection is treated as a failure to understand agriculture. I trace the intellectual genealogy of this feudalism in crisis number 2, from Rothbard through Hope through Srinivasan. I named the empire of exit as foreign policy in crisis number 8. I identified the epistemological structure that enables it in crisis number 13, and I found the root in crisis number 14. The entire project is the attempt to reverse Jefferson's substitution, to put property back in the foundation, to make ownership the ground of governance again. Smith's technological determinism is a temporal extension of that same project. It says, not only does property come first, the future belongs to the people who build. The owner's logic is not merely the correct logic for the present, it is the inevitable logic of the future. The scaling laws have spoken, the trajectory is set, and you, citizen, parent, voter, human being, are a passenger now. The people are sovereign, including over their tools, including over their futures, including over the decisions about what to build, who it serves, and whether it should exist at all. The scaling laws are real. They describe what happens if the current choices continue. They do not describe what happens if the choices change. And the choices can change because they were always choices made by people standing somewhere, serving interests, answerable, or they should be, to the democratic community whose lives are restructured by the consequences. Had to take a sip of water, excuse me. These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier will tell you the future is decided, that the technology marches on, that your agency is a relic of a simpler time, that the mature response is accommodation, that resistance is Luddism and nostalgia and a failure to understand the charts. The summer soldier is a coward. Not because he is afraid of the technology, he is right to respect its power, but because he has surrendered the one thing that no technology can take from you unless you give it away, the right to decide. The future is not fixed. The trajectory is not fate. The tiger was built by human hands, and human hands can choose what to build next. The parent who says, "I didn't ask for this," is not naive. She is making the foundational democratic claim, the claim that precedes every other right, that grounds every institution, that makes the republic possible. The people are sovereign over their conditions, not subject to them. Steve Jobs made bicycles for the mind. This lot would make the mind a bicycle for their machines and call the servitude inevitable. I refuse. The future belongs to the people, not to the scaling laws, not to the venture capitalists, not to the engineers who build tigers and then tell you adaptation is freedom. The future belongs to us. It always has. And the lie that it doesn't, the lie that the trajectory is fixed, that the choices are made, that your only freedom is the freedom to accommodate, that lie is the last and most dangerous version of the view from nowhere. Because it doesn't just hide the choices being made in the present, it forecloses the choices that could be made in the future. It tells you that tomorrow is already decided, that the democratic community has no standing to shape its own conditions, that the people are passengers now. They are not. We are not. The ground is ours. The future is ours. The tools are ours to use, to refuse, to direct, to constrain as a self-governing people, accountable to each other and to the generations that follow. The computer is a bicycle for the mind, not a throne, not a king, not a tiger, a bicycle. And the rider decides where it goes. And that is the end of Mike Brock's Crisis number 15. And he is describing, I think, the same old world that we're talking about in the first part of our relational spirituality, our horizontal enlightenment. that old world functions in a specific way that does not work, and he's calling attention to that. And we don't have to accept the foreordained future they want to give us, because it is not foreordained. We have agency. We have control. And by inhabiting the sacred space between us as community is how we take that control back. So thank you for joining me here on Children of the Sun on WSTX AM 970. Next week in episode 5, we're going to look at inhabiting the shared space. And for now, want to tell you to enjoy the weekend, get out into nature, inhabit the space between you and a tree. Remember, feet in the sand, arms around a tree heals your electromagnetic energy. Love you all. Thank you for listening. Thank you for giving me some space and some time. Keep your dial where it is. Join Dreamcatchers coming up next right here on WSTX AM 970, the soul of the Caribbean.